This year is totally different for college admissions. We're going to go over the reasons why today, and I'm going to tell you what you need to know about applying this cycle so that you have the best chance of getting in where you want to be. Now, this isn't to say that old advice isn't applicable. It's just not as applicable. And there are some things you need to know in addition to the old advice. First things first, test scores are mandatory again. This is good for you if you want to go to large state schools like U, Michigan, and U, Wisconsin. I don't know how many of you know this, but last year there was this big kerfuffle essentially because they had so many applicants that they couldn't get through because they use test scores to kind of cross out people and they weren't able to do it. So they've eventually just kind of stopped letting people in if they applied after a certain date, which is crazy. So try to get your test score up because schools are going to be using that again as a cutoff point. Now, what do you really need to get in to the schools? So we're going to go into range versus median. A lot of people, you'll notice, they'll say, oh, okay, for example, Harvard, the score you need to get in is a 1550 because that's the median score, right? If you look at the brackets, so you have the 25, 50, 75%, the percentiles. So it'll be 1550, 1580, and 1510. And everyone is saying, oh, you have to get the 1550. This is false. I don't like it when people say this. What you really need to be paying attention to is the 25th percentile. Forget the 50th, whatever. I don't really care about the 50th percentile. I care about the 25th because anything that you get underneath this, you're going to have a reason, right, that you didn't get the 25th. The reason could be that you were sick. The reason could be that there's no test prep in your area. Maybe you're FGLI and you just did not have the resources to pay for tutoring. That's totally fine. You need to have a reason if you're under 25, is my point. If you're under 50, no one really cares because think about it. There's actually 25% of people are within here. So I don't know why everyone always focuses on this. And some people even focus on this. Forget about it. Focus on being in the top 75%, unless you have something here. Athletics, need, etc. Something needs to be explaining if you're not in the top 75%. Forget the 50th, though. Forget 50. I'm going to write that here. ACT versus SAT. I don't really know if there's debate about this, but I'm just going to tell you, just do whichever one you're better at. Take diagnostic tests for both. They're both terrible, both excruciating. Do whichever one is less painful, and do whichever one you do better in. Second thing, affirmative action. Now that it's gone, what have schools been doing? So for the last 2 years, we've been seeing schools and the reaction to affirmative action being overturned, repealed. I don't really know how to phrase that. We knew it was gone, but now we know it's in. Biggest thing is FGLI. This is how colleges are building diversity, which is still important. They're just not able to do it on like a racial basis like they were before. Well, it's kind of a simplification of what they did before, but essentially they could do that before, now they can't. So what are they going to do instead? FGLI. So if you are FGLI is first gen or low income. There's a big debate if you have to be both. You can just be one. So you are first gen if your parents have an associate's degree, a high school degree, or no degree. If they have a bachelor's or nursing, unfortunately, no. And obviously anything above that, obviously you wouldn't be FGLI, but I figured you kind of knew that. So you're going to need, this is a huge deal. You need to not only, so there's a disclosure on the application. It asks you to check a box. You check that box so enthusiastically you almost break your computer, okay? It's very important. The other thing is diversity statement. So this is for everyone. This is kind of up here, only really applicable if you're FGLI. This is for everyone. Colleges still want diversity. And there is nothing preventing them from choosing applicants who are diverse. They just need to have a reason that isn't strictly demographic. Example, if you say, I am the only Chinese person in my school, and you leave it at that, they cannot factor that in to your application because that's just demographic. You have just told them that you're Chinese. However, if you tell them, I am the only Chinese person in my school, so I decided to start a club, or so I am really good at bridging the divide between people who have different backgrounds and opinions because I had to make friends despite discrimination, whatever. These narratives might seem kind of cheap to you. And by cheap, I just mean like a little difficult, right? Especially if you hold an identity, because so this diversity, this isn't just racial. This could be anything: gender, sexuality, race, ethnicity, whatever. It can feel kind of weird. Like, for example, if you're gay, and it's like you spent your whole life being gay and like it sucked, and now you have to write about how it made you a better person. It can feel it feels a little disingenuous, right? I totally get that. That being said, that's kind of what you have to do, unfortunately. Unfortunately, you don't need to trauma dump. You don't need to go into details, but you do kind of need to talk about how you've grown as a person due to adversity. I really hate this, but it's just kind of what you have to do, because if you're not going to do it, somebody else is going to do it, right? Thing too is like, maybe you don't see it now, but the reality is that holding different identities and having to overcome adversity, again, I'm not going to say it's a good thing. I'm not going to say you should be grateful that you've had to do that. That being said, it often does build character traits that can help you succeed in college, and you should tell them that. On the other hand, it can also give you crazy mental health problems and like really defeat your personality in a lot of ways, which again, sucks. But you know what we're going to do? Not talk about that now. You know what you're going to talk about that in? Therapy. Make sure you talk about not only what identities you hold, but how they've changed your perspective. Even if it's not building character, if that feels too disingenuous, that's totally fine. But talk about how your perspective is different. Talk about a time where that background made you able to say something or see something that somebody else wouldn't have been able to. Third, pandemic impact. Are you normal enough to be successful? This is kind of a strange one. Harvard, for example, has always really cared about your ability to be socially intelligent, and they screen this in the interview. However, all schools this year are really looking at your social and emotional intelligence, because you all are in the generation where a major part of your education was disrupted by the pandemic, right? They're really looking to see, can you actually be successful in the real world, or are you too weird? And when I say weird, I don't mean weird. You can be weird. There's no problem with that. But can you sit down and have a conversation with an adult? Can you network? That's another, because that's what colleges want. They want important alumni. They want people that can network for them. You need to show them that despite having been sent home for a significant part of your developmental years, you are able to network. You have emotional and social intelligence. The best way to show this, my screen's getting so messy. The best way to show this is, one, talk about leadership. If you don't have leadership positions, that's totally fine. Just make sure to talk about community at a certain point in one of your essays. They care about that always, but they're really going to care about it this year. Other thing is that when you interview, you got to interview really well. I'll do a video about how to interview prep. It's not that hard. Make sure to somehow in your essays, application, or in the interview talk about your ability to network with others and exist in a group. That's it for today. Feel free to tell me in the comments if you like having more colors. This is new. I usually just do purple. Let me know what you think. I also hope all your essay writing is going well. Even if you're not getting it edited by me, you got to start working on that, because you don't want it to sneak up on you. So you don't even have to, forget it. Don't even get it edited by me. Just write it, please, for your own sake. Yeah, don't forget during this very stressful season to always take care of yourself. Your mental health comes first. If you get to college and your mental health sucks, you're not going to do super well. Why work so hard to get in somewhere that you've always wanted to go, only to not have the skills to succeed because you've been so focused on getting there? Try to prioritize yourself during this process. Make sure to get a lot of sleep. Make sure to eat enough. Fuel your brain. And also make sure to have some fun. See your friends, be social, whatever. Enjoy the rest of your summer. I'll see y'all soon.